Some villains were completely insane. Some actually had a point. But which ones were right?
Today, we're not ranking them by power. We're ranking one thing: how right were they?
Starting at absolute zero, Ryomen Sukuna.
Sukuna isn't trying to fix a broken world. He doesn't want peace. He doesn't want justice. He simply believes he has the right to do whatever he wants. He doesn't believe he's saving anyone. He doesn't believe he's creating a better world. Sukuna's philosophy is much simpler. If he wants something, he takes it. 0%. Sukuna isn't misunderstood. He's simply a monster. But the next villain started with an idea that sounded almost noble. At 35% Light Yagami, the man who believed he could create a perfect world. At first, Light wasn't chasing power. He wanted to eliminate criminals and create a world where innocent people could live without fear. And for a while it actually worked. Crime began falling. People became afraid to break the law. Light finally believed he had proven himself right. But then, Light discovered something dangerous. He didn't just want to eliminate criminals anymore. He wanted to eliminate anyone who stood against Kira. The moment Light killed people who weren't criminals, he crossed the line. Kira wasn't protecting his new world anymore. He was protecting himself. Light stopped seeing himself as a teenager with a notebook. He started seeing himself as a god, the only person worthy of deciding who deserved to live. But here's the problem with Kira's perfect world. Who decides what evil means? And what happens when the person holding the power becomes the greatest threat? Light gets 35%. The original idea had a point, but the moment he became the judge, jury, and executioner, the argument collapsed. Nagato didn't invent his hatred in a vacuum. He was born in a village that powerful nations repeatedly turned into a battlefield. To Nagato, this was the real problem. One side suffers, then retaliates. The other side suffers, then retaliates again. And the cycle never ends. Pain's answer was terrifying. Create a weapon so powerful that every nation fears using violence. If everyone knows what war will cost, maybe everyone finally chooses peace. And Pain had evidence. The powerful nations repeatedly fought their wars on the land of smaller nations. The innocent paid the price while the strongest kept calling it peace. But there's a fatal flaw. Peace created through terror isn't really peace. It's obedience. And the moment the fear disappears, the cycle can begin again. Pain gets 75%. His diagnosis of war was frighteningly accurate. His solution? That's where the argument breaks.
And then we reach the extreme, 100%. Eren Yeager.
Eren once believed freedom existed beyond the walls. Then he discovered the truth. Beyond those walls was an entire world that wanted Paradis destroyed. Then came the moment Eren could no longer ignore. The outside world wasn't simply afraid of Paradis. It was preparing to destroy it. Diplomacy offered possibilities, but every possibility came with one problem. What happens if the other side refuses? Eren wasn't fighting for an abstract idea. He was fighting for the people he loved and the island he called home. And Eren finally made his choice. If the world wanted Paradis destroyed, he would make sure Paradis survived. But there's no escaping the other side of the argument. Eren's choice wasn't just survival. It meant innocent people would pay the price for a war they never started. Could Eren have chosen another path? Maybe. But every alternative came with one terrifying uncertainty. Would Paradis survive long enough to see it work? Eren's argument was never that what he did was good. It was that when survival becomes the only choice left, someone has to choose who survives. Eren gets 100% not because the rumbling was morally right, but because from his perspective the choice was survival or extinction. So here is our final scale. Sukuna, 0%. Light, 35. Pain, 75. And Eren, 100. But wait, there's one problem with giving Eren 100%. Survival explains his decision, but does survival automatically make the decision right? Pain wanted peace through fear. Eren wanted survival through force. One wanted humanity to fear war, the other wanted his people to survive it. But this isn't supposed to be the final answer. Because the real question isn't what we think. It's what you think. Sukuna, 0. Light, 35. Pain, 75. And Eren, 100. But would your list look the same? So here's the question. Did Eren really deserve 100%? Was Pain's philosophy actually stronger? Or did Light deserve more than 35%? Now it's your turn. Give Sukuna, Light, Pain, and Eren your own percentages, and tell us, who deserves the highest score? Because in the end, being a villain doesn't always mean being wrong. Sometimes the most dangerous ideas are the ones that make you question everything. Who was actually right? You decide. This is Ranked Red, and I'll see you in the next one. We gave them numbers, but numbers can't decide morality, because the real question is much harder. Sukuna believed power was enough. Light believed justice needed a judge. Pain believed fear could create peace. And Eren believed freedom required survival. Every villain in this episode made one choice, but every choice had a price. And the real question isn't just were they right, it's who had to pay for it. That's what makes these villains so difficult to judge. Because sometimes a terrible action can come from a reason you actually understand. Maybe that's what makes a great villain terrifying. Not that they're completely wrong, but that sometimes you understand exactly why they became one. 4 villains, 4 completely different answers, and only one question remains. Now forget my rankings. Give them your own. Who gets 0, who gets 100, and who deserves the score nobody saw coming? Because if anyone can challenge Eren's 100%, it's Pain. One chose survival through destruction, the other chose peace through fear. Pain's argument is simpler. He wanted humanity to understand suffering before repeating it. Eren wanted humanity to understand fear by making the consequences impossible to ignore. Eren's answer was brutally simple. If the threat could never be contained, then protecting his people meant eliminating the threat itself. And that's where the debate gets complicated. You can understand the logic without agreeing with the morality. And you can understand the survival instinct without calling the result justified. So where does that leave us? Sukuna had power, Light had an idea, Pain had a diagnosis, and Eren had survival. So, are these scores actually fair? Or would you rank them completely differently? Tell us your percentages in the comments. Your ranking, your verdict. This is Ranked Red. I'll see you in episode 8.